It's 1987. The lives of the Johnson family take a 180-degree turn. In Los Santos, there's a great tragedy in which the youngest member of the family, Brian, dies. Deep in despair, CJ, who probably could have prevented the tragedy or contributed to it solidly, cannot withstand the pressure of his friends and decides to leave the city for a longer time. He heads to Liberty City, which will become his place of residence for the next 5 years, and where the main character will try to start his life anew, thus trying to forget about the unlucky events from his hometown. During his several years of adventure, CJ has the opportunity to get acquainted with Joey Leone, the son of Don Leone. What was CJ's life like in Liberty City? How did an ordinary boy from the ghetto become a member of an Italian crime family? And how did his relationship with Joey Leone influence the events of GTA San Andreas? These and many other questions will be answered in today's video. During the opening cutscene of Liberty City, in the introduction, we can see CJ in the red light district trying to steal a car. The theft of ZR350 and Bobcat fails, while only Washington is successfully stolen. Probably CJ deals with stealing cars, on behalf of which we receive a confirmation later. Before proceeding further, it's worth mentioning a certain mistake here. CJ, after maneuvering toward the main street, suddenly drives down one of the streets of Chinatown, which we think is an obvious oversight on the developer's part. For this to make sense, CJ should first take a turn right, and then to the left at the next two intersections, as we can see in the video. In turn, while turning left as shown in the cutscene in the introduction, CJ should be still driving in the red light district. And then, to get to Chinatown, he would first have to make a double right turn. CJ would then end up in a Chinatown street, but he would be driving it in the opposite direction to the one shown in the video. Getting back to the point, Carl contacts Joey, and a brief conversation is going on between them. Significantly, CJ steals cars for Joey, which appears to be a typical errand boy's job. After all, Claude did similar things in GTA 3 at the very beginning. CJ in this case was likely involved in one of the branches of the mafia's business, which is selling stolen cars. The cars were obtained by CJ from the city, and then Joey's workshop removed any traceable elements. Then papers were made for such a car, after which the vehicle could be sold safely. Or another situation when a given ride wasn't good for being sold. It was dismantled into parts, which of course then also went to the market. We got a relatively similar situation in the next part of GTA. Well, in Vice City at the beginning, BJ Smith, the original owner of Sunshine Autos, also dealt with stolen cars. The next owner, Tommy Vercetti, converted stolen cars into unique and luxurious rides, and then sold them as well. Coming back to the topic, CJ, as an associate, could also deal with other smaller jobs or more serious ones, such as killing members of other enemy gangs. Plus, CJ was doubly useful in this regard. Well, even if someone noticed CJ when he was getting rid of a person inconvenient for the Leone crime family, no one would rather associate him with mobsters because of the color of his skin. Thanks to this, the mobsters neatly washed their hands of dirty work while getting rid of their obstacles. Similar practices were carried out by Salvatore Leone in 1992 when he sent CJ to Liberty City to kill Marco Forelli at Marco's Bistro. On the other hand, another cutscene with CJ shows us that the protagonist did not receive serious orders on behalf of Joey, let alone the Leone family. Well, in the scene we see now, CJ resorts to a simple mugging in an alley. This makes it possible to think that his position in mafia circles was only at the level of an ordinary associate. In the context of what we've said, we would like to present two comments. The first one comes from user Barry Gormley 3986, who wrote, "It's definitely my headcanon that CJ wasn't highly respected in Liberty City and was actually seen as a joke, not unlike Loke in Grove Street. The most likely explanation for this is that despite being a gifted killer, CJ did not have the ruthlessness of a character like Claude, and so wasn't willing to do everything his bosses wanted him to do. But in any event, I think the evidence for his lowly status is clear. From the fact that he was reduced to performing random muggings, to the fact he appears to arrive in LS with very little money, to the fact that there's no evidence of anyone in Liberty City caring that he's gone. This is a very interesting comment because it may give us a reason why CJ didn't do well in Liberty City. And it was precisely his morality that ironically prevented him from committing certain crimes. This statement coincides with that of Sabatino3299, who wrote that the color of the skin did not completely rule out a career in an Italian mafia, which indicates that the reason for this lies elsewhere. Well, Sabatino wrote, "A big misconception is that the mafia is or was a racist organization. Granted, the older generation was very skeptical of outsiders or non-Italians, or even Italians from different parts of Italy. They still had no issue working with blacks or other backgrounds. Most of them all grew up in the same areas as well. Today's generation of Italians, still in New York, have a greater camaraderie with black folks and Hispanics. The older guys were more into the business end. Also, back in the 60s, before a lot of guys went up in the mob ranks, if you look at the old street gangs of New York, they all had a mix of black, Italian, Puerto Rican, etc., with some Irish and Jewish guys here and there." Of course, some events from GTA San Andreas show that CJ had no qualms and could kill in cold blood. But we do not know if the main character of the game has not undergone a huge metamorphosis over the years, which was the result of many unpleasant events such as the death of his mother, gang wars, or the episode with the corrupted crash unit. In short, CJ in Liberty City could be a person with a completely different personality than in GTA San Andreas. In the meantime, let's move on to the story of the game to see what we can get out of it. In the game itself, we can see that CJ can neatly use the fact that he used to work with Joey. This type of situation took place during the free fall mission, which is performed for Caligula's casino, specifically for Salvatore Leone. During the opening cutscene, CJ talks about having worked with Joey before, partly assuring Salvatore that Don can trust him.
"The name's Carl Johnson, sir. Before working with Mr. Rosenberg here, I had the pleasure of doing business with your son Joey back in Liberty City."
"You know my Joey? I like that."
This causes Salvatore to stop treating him like a regular kid, since Joey wouldn't work with an irresponsible person. As you can see, thanks to this twist of fate, meeting Joey in Liberty City, CJ was able to get in Salvatore's favor, which was crucial for the future heist of the Caligula's casino, and allowed the man to penetrate the building carefully. In the context of this mission, it should be assumed that Salvatore checked out whom CJ was and called his son Joey to ask exactly about his former employee. Unfortunately, we're not eyewitnesses to this call, but the call is evidenced by Salvatore's behavior towards CJ in the context of, among others, entrusting him with such an important task, which was to kill Marco Forelli, as well as the continuation of the cooperation itself. This is where a very important thing happened to CJ. Salvatore learned from his son that CJ was trustworthy, so he didn't do much research and thus didn't realize that CJ was working for the Triads and at the same time for a rival casino, and that he was planning to rob the Caligula's casino. As if that wasn't enough, CJ increased his credibility even further by successfully killing Marco in Liberty City, which we witnessed in the mission St. Mark's Bistro. Deviating from the main topic for a moment, we would like to add a curiosity that concerns this mission. Namely, when exploring Liberty City using the universe of hidden interiors, it's worth noting how much of Portland Island was created for the task. Still, we only kill Marco Forelli in the backyard of the restaurant. This implies that we were originally going to chase Marco around a large patch of Portland, but the idea was abandoned for some reason. What needs to be said about the subject of our video is that after completing the task, CJ could stop by Joey's workshop and meet him years later. However, if this concept existed at all, it was at a very early stage of development, because as we can see in the attached clip, Joey's workshop in GTA San Andreas simply does not exist. Anyway, it's a pity that these two characters didn't meet, because it could be very interesting. After all, we know from the introduction that the gentlemen had a quite good relationship with each other and talked not only about business, but also private matters. In turn, therefore, we can now smoothly move on to a certain nuance regarding one of these conversations. If we look closely at CJ's statement and pay attention to the phrase, "Yeah, I hear you," when talking about the characters' fathers, we can see that both men are on the same wavelength and have a lot of empathy for each other, due to the fact that they had gone through similar experiences. Joey Leone complained on the phone about his father, which brought the two men even closer due to CJ's similar experiences in this topic.
Joe. Hey, what's up, man? It's CJ. Yeah, I hear you. I never knew my dad, but my brother used to make my life miserable. Yeah, well, that's what family for.
One of the reasons Joey complained about his father could be that instead of giving him a better front of business than a regular garage, he cares more about other mafia capos like Tony Cipriani. In the context of this whole conversation, we can presume that Salvatore may have been picky about Joey's activities not bringing the expected results. He may have also resented the fact that Joey didn't take life too seriously and used the services of prostitutes instead of finding the right woman.
Celebrate, okay? There's my boy.
How you doing, Pop?
You got yourself a good woman yet? Hey, your mother, God bless her soul, would be turning over in her grave to see you without a wife.
I know, Pop. I'm working on it.
This intrusion of Salvatore into his life may have caused Joey cyclical frustrations. Joey may have felt unappreciated by his father in some way, so he confided in CJ. As we can see, it works both ways, because CJ also confides in Don's son and mentions, among other things, that Sweet still resents him or that he never met his father. All in all, it's safe to say that CJ's relationship with Joey Leone was on a very high level. It's almost certain that they may have been friends rather than just business partners for many reasons. Both men confided in each other what was bothering them, supporting each other. We would rather tell this type of information to people who are somehow close to us, not complete strangers. Their acquaintance certainly had a positive impact on Joey's business and personal life, because thanks to Carl's thefts, Joey was able to develop his business while supporting the Leones through the use of stolen cars. It's also worth emphasizing that this cooperation had a huge impact on the plot of the game. If the men had not known each other, we're not sure whether the casino heist would have taken place at all. There's a good chance Salvatore wouldn't trust CJ because he wouldn't have any references that came from Joey. After all, it would be highly suspicious of some black guy popping up out of nowhere, and it would all stink even more given that the Chinese triad recently opened their casino in the area. And who knows if they sent someone to spy? By the way, using mafia tricks by sending a man of different skin color, purely for the sake of disguise. Thank you, dear folks, for today, and we're looking forward to seeing your feedback regarding this episode. In the meantime, take care, and until next time, bye!